Hey guys, so I've been mentioning Stellantis quite a bit recently, so I thought I'd just have a bit of a ramble on sort of why I'm invested in them and why I've been buying in sort of a fair bit recently. So I was sort of in Stellantis and Volkswagen through Volkswagen and Porsche, and they're sort of my main two automotive manufacturer bets going forward. I'm in Renault as well, but that's a bit of a sort of more risky, less conviction stock. So Stellantis is sort of one of my more favoured ones recently for sort of quite a few reasons, really. So just sort of looking at them as a bit of an overview. 45 billion euro market cap. I actually own the US listed one, but the financials are in euros, so it's just easier to show the euro listing. So 45 billion euro market cap. And if you come to sort of the statistics page on Yahoo, I find this quite handy just for some sort of quick figures. You can't always trust these because of sort of currency differences and that sort of thing. If you look at sort of Chinese companies, it'll often have a sort of US listed market cap with Chinese financials, so it sort of throws off all the PEs and that sort of thing. But surprisingly, these appear to be correct. Trailing PE, they've had sort of 14 billion euros in net profit. So for a 45 billion euro market cap, it is trailing PE of 3.2, and doesn't seem to be that many analysts sort of looking at the forward earnings. So maybe take the forward PE with a pinch of salt, but sort of 2021 was a relatively bad year. So with the chip shortage and that sort of thing, so wouldn't surprise me if 2022 is a better year. Chip shortage isn't over, of course, but potentially sort of easing and sort of less shutdowns due to illness, which we had sort of early 2021. So yeah, would expect sort of better times going forward. Obviously low sort of price to sales, the auto manufacturers normally would be. But profit margin pretty good. You don't see sort of nearly 10% profit margin for many companies. Again, whether this is just an odd year with that net profit being sort of relatively high, we don't know. But we'll see sort of this coming year. So yeah, just looking at the sort of financials, I think the sort of older financials I believe are just for the Fiat side. So yeah, if I sort of show you the sort of breakdown of everything that they are, it was a sort of merger between, if you remove Citroen, Vauxhall, Opel, which is the sort of European version of Vauxhall, and Peugeot, and then sort of DS, which is an offshoot of Citroen. That is the PSA group, and then sort of everything else is Fiat Chrysler. So they sort of merged, I think end of 2020, sort of early 2021, to become Stellantis, and that is now sort of all of this. And sort of the basis really of investing in auto manufacturers really at the moment is the switch to electric vehicles. So sort of various parts of these companies are sort of pushing forward at different rates with electric vehicles. I would say the sort of European side, the PSA group, are sort of further ahead, which I think may sort of contribute to some of the negative sentiment really sort of around the company. People sort of still think of them as Fiat Chrysler mainly, with sort of the Americans will think they've added some small European brands, but sort of not really taking into account how far they are ahead in their EV sales, which I will come back to. So yeah, the sort of the US side companies, people like Jeep, Ram with the big trucks and that sort of thing, Dodge, they're all sort of talking about 2023, mid to late 2023 into sort of 2024 to be getting their first sort of proper electric vehicles out, and sort of Chrysler and people like that don't seem to be doing a huge amount at all. Fiat are doing okay themselves. They've got the Fiat 500 electric, and then you've got sort of Abarth being the sort of hot hatch offshoot of Fiat, but they're sort of saying that they're not going to do any type of electric hot hatch for sort of a good 5 years. So unless that changes, then yeah, that's them. Another thing to sort of bear in mind is the commercial side. So they show sort of Fiat Professional, but you've got Citroën, Peugeot, and Vauxhall all sort of have a van side, sort of slightly some larger vans and some sort of very small sort of Ford Transit type vans, and they are sort of pushing on quite far with electric as well. They're sort of getting sold in fairly large batches to some sort of British companies and European companies. I think I saw the post office, the Royal Mail in Britain, sort of bought a fair amount. I think it was Vauxhall, and I think it was BT were buying one of these brands. I have to double check, but yeah, so they're sort of, they're a big sort of fleet of vans, that existing petrol and diesel vans that they have, and they've sort of got the liquidity to, test drive one or two, see that they like them, and then they'll buy 2,000 or 3,000 at a time. So it's a bit easier than sort of selling some of this stuff to general public sometime. So yeah, it's sort of an overview of Stellantis sort of brands, where they are. Like I say, I think there's probably a little bit of pessimism in the US, and sort of not really knowing enough about the European brands. So I think when they start to see sort of the figures going forward, should be a little bit better. So I think going back into sort of 2020, 2019 and 18, this is just the Fiat Chrysler side. And then obviously they've added in the PSA side as well. So if you actually look at the annual report, I know I'm jumping around all over the place here. So if you look at the financial report, they're saying 149 billion euros in net revenue and 14 billion net profit. But if you come down to 2020, they actually split out the two brands before they were merged. So you can see sort of 86 billion. So yeah, 86 billion in revenue for Fiat Chrysler. And if you come back to Yahoo, they're saying 86 billion for 2020. So this is all Fiat Chrysler, basically, these three columns. But yeah, you can see sort of they near enough, Fiat Chrysler side near enough broke even in 2020 due to sort of obviously shutdowns and the illness. But the PSA side actually did pretty well. So they do 47 billion revenue, but they did 2 billion euros in net profit. So yeah, they've sort of added a fair bit to this year's figures as well. So now you've got 14 billion. Maybe if people start seeing the entire group as more of a sort of profitable entity, and they maybe realise that some of that is sort of coming from the European brands, then yeah, could be a bit better sentiment. Because they're on, there is a US listing, so they are on Macro Trends, I did just have a look at sort of historical PEs. If you've got sort of 3.2 trailing PE at the moment, so you can go back to there's sort of a couple of anomaly years with low earnings, and so it spikes right up to like 40. But sort of cut those out, you get 4 years ish worth of PE, and it is sort of normally round about 5, I guess. Sort of leaning into 2019, had a bit of a rough year. Not too bad earnings, but just people selling off the stock, and sort of then obviously that goes into 2020, and we all know why that went down then. So it hasn't necessarily traded at a high PE before, but as I say, I think this was partly sort of negativity but towards the Fiat Chrysler side. It's not brands they really, the Fiat and Alfa Romeo, I don't think are brands that the US side really sort of like. I mean, similar even with Chrysler, to be honest. I think they're sort of fairly happy with Ram, the big trucks, and sort of and the Jeep side. Lancia, I don't think do a great deal at the moment, and then sort of Maserati is quite nice as a sort of little standalone luxury brand. But yeah, as a group, I can see why they would sort of have a bit of negativity towards them. But bring in the Europe boys, and it should be decent. The other thing, sort of bear in mind, is they are a sort of very global company. So you look at sort of South America sales. So this is thousands of cars and vans. The South America side, like just in Brazil, 600,000 units, and they have 32% market share in Brazil. So, and then sort of similar in Argentina, similar market share, 100,000, and sort of 812,000 units in South America overall. So can't sort of see this getting particularly disrupted anytime soon. They do show it's been sort of growing over time. I was trying to see if they could split out whether any of this was the addition of PSA Group, but does seem to be sort of more the Fiat Chrysler brands in South America. So yeah, I think it is just growth. They've also got, so you can see sort of Volkswagen, General Motors, and then sort of a smattering of other brands in South America, or in Brazil at least. So not sure whether you're suddenly going to get the sort of new boys like Tesla and sort of Neo and people like that suddenly trying to sell electric vehicles in Brazil. Not sure whether they can even really afford it. There's sort of doubts of whether the British can even suddenly afford to be buying £40,000 electric vehicles if they've had a Ford Focus or something for £15,000 to suddenly move to sort of £35,000 EV is a bit of a struggle, no matter how much you save on petrol and diesel. So the enlarged Europe obviously shrunk. This is their largest market, so that sort of shrunk from 2019 with the shutdowns and the chip shortages and that sort of thing. Hoping for that to sort of get back to reasonable figures. But you come down even to sort of Middle East and Africa. Turkey is sort of a large part of this segment, and again 30% market share. It's not a huge market, but 219,000 units. It was 138 in 2019, so that's grown since before all the issues. And a few sort of 20,000 units, 40,000 units here, all sort of helps. So I thought that was interesting. So just looking at the sort of electric side, I think this is what maybe the Americans are sort of missing out on with Stellantis, sort of thinking that all the EVs are years and years away. So you've got Europe's top 20 EV sales for January of this year. You've got quite a few Stellantis in here. So you've got Peugeot 3008. This is plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, so sort of debatable whether you would count that. I wouldn't really count that, considering it's still sort of presumably a small petrol engine with a battery as well. Would prefer sort of completely electric, but we've also got 3,300 of the Fiat 500 electric, and then sort of 2,800 Peugeot 208 electric, and 2,500 of the 2008 electric. So Peugeot and Fiat both putting in sort of decent numbers, and then there'll be sort of some sales from all the other cars and brands that are sort of getting going with EVs but just haven't sold quite that much. But yeah, not really sure as well why they don't show Tesla on here. I would have thought they would be in the top 20 at least, so a little bit strange numbers. But yeah, I thought this was pretty good sort of showing from them, considering they're sort of a little bit behind. I would say they're behind Volkswagen Group in terms of sort of electric progression. But yeah, I thought this was pretty good. So yeah, that's my my kind of bet for Stellantis, really, that the this sort of net profit can continue. I mean, you can't make 14 billion a year too much with 45 billion market cap. I mean, I'm not expecting them to do buybacks or anything like that, but yeah, they're going to be reinvesting all that profit into sort of EV progression, but 3 times earnings is a little ridiculous. Just checking the balance sheet as well. This was, again, one of the sort of advantages that they have over Volkswagen Group. So you're looking at sort of, you can drop down liabilities here, sort of current debt, 11 billion euros, and sort of long-term debt of 22.5 billion euros. So it sort of shows you total debt at the bottom here. Obviously this has grown with the merger. So before, I expect this was, again, just Fiat Chrysler side's debt. So this is now the total company debt, 33 billion euros. But unlike Volkswagen, they actually have 51.5 billion in cash. So they are net cash. Where sort of Volkswagen obviously have, I think they're still the most indebted company in the world, sort of 190 billion euros in debt, with sort of a little bit of cash. They probably got, I think they've got about the same as Stellantis, to be honest. So yeah, they're trying to sort of spend money on capital expenditure, sort of trying to grow factories and EVs, battery factories. There's a huge amount to be investing, but Volkswagen have also got to be paying off that debt, where Stellantis sort of, they have the debt but they have cash in the bank, so it's obviously the way they sort of want to run, I guess, while interest rates are low. But if they wanted to, they could pay down sort of a fair bit of that and just spend all the income on expansion. But yeah, well, I guess interest rates are still 0% basically. They'll carry on keeping the debt. So yeah, much stronger balance sheet, really. So you're looking at total equity of 56 billion. So total assets minus total liabilities is sort of 10 billion euros more than the market cap. Book value is sort of much lower, but yeah, still seems a lot more positive than Volkswagen Group, really. So, but Volkswagen Group, as I say, much more sort of ahead on the electric progression. I think they're selling sort of 3 or 4 times the EVs at the moment that Stellantis are. But yeah, I thought they're a nice complement really to Volkswagen. Happy to sort of hold them both, but it was a smaller position than my Volkswagen position, because I was sort of waiting for some of the figures to come out really after the merger, and now they've had their annual report. It's looking pretty good. Would like to sort of maybe get another sort of first half of 2022 just to sort of see how they're going, but yeah, I think I will carry on adding a fair bit as we go. So yeah, interesting. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.